Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack. I just got to sit down with Greg, aka Seraphine XD, one of the highest rated Resto Druids in the world in Mythic Plus, and he walked us through how to be playing Resto Druid at the highest level. If you like these kind of videos, definitely let me know, and we'll be doing more of them in the future. Enjoy!
With Druid, the main thing is at first, if you're picking up the class, you're going to see there's a lot of micro managing, micro movements, like micro CDs that you need to do as a druid. I would say it's very important to kind of understand damage patterns. If you don't understand the dungeon itself and what your group is going to take damage of, like as a hot healer, you're going to get punished, right? Like, I mean, you press hots in advance of damage. That's essentially what a druid does. So you need to have some setup mentality in your head of like what is going to come in the dungeon. Like, for example, so this very first pool, like you can do a lot of damage as a druid here, but like what I'll do on the setup is I just set up pots on my tank, because essentially your tank is going to be the only one that's going to take damage on this pool, and then there's like occasional like single target abilities that hit people. But like just knowing this in advance can get you many globals to where you can do damage as a healer. And doing damage as a healer can be important in the keys that you're trying to progress through. Like as you get higher in the higher levels, like you want to be doing damage, like you can't just just heal the key. But by knowing that on this pool, like the tank is the only one taking damage, right? Like, you can get more efficiency in with your cat globals. So like just being kind of like prepped in advance of like how you know the dungeon is going to go pull from pull is, I feel, is what determines if you're going to be a good druid or not. What I see a lot of druids do on all of this boss is like you want to make sure your group is pre-hotted, right? Like to some extent, you don't want to just go in like completely naked. So like I'm telling my group like, hey, give me 1 second. I see we only have like 4 minutes left, so we're trying to rush here. So I get some hots going, but the important part here is during this turbocharge, and what I did from the prior pool, so this kind of leads into like the 1 minute thing that I find very important on playing Resto Druid is anytime I go into like a really hard pool, I'm always trying to save like 5 combo points. Specifically because if I know I need to heal, then like you'll see here, for example, like I had 5, boom, rake rip, that's it. Like, and then turbocharge is like about to cast here. We're also lusted on pool, and then I go to healing. But just doing this alone, like I'm not in cat form, and look at how much like damage my bleeds are doing. I'm like at a mil DPS just from applying rake and rip on pool the boss. So I think it's like super important to do this as a druid, to always kind of think about your combo points going into like specific setups that will require you healing. Even if it takes you 1 second to get into cat form to apply rake and rip and then you get out like instantly, you could still do like meaningful amounts of damage just by simply doing that, and then you could still maintain the healing check that is needed for that boss. And then since we're on the topic of like single target, so Gigazap's coming up here in 2 seconds. So how I kind of go about this is I always keep my life blooms on anybody but DK and me specifically, because this boss has like a rotation, like a set of who gets picked first. So kind of prioing my big healing on the 2 squishies, Mage Shaman. So if they are selected first, I have already big healing rolling on them. DK can AMS, so typically I don't have to life bloom the DK for this fight because, he's immuning most of the Gigazaps, but I think you'll eventually see like if it picks me, like I'll just go. So I got lucky here, right? So these first 2 pick Shaman Mage, and I already have like so much already set up for them. So it's just super easy, just spamming regrowth, have them already hotted. And then now that I know next in cycle is going to be me and DK, so I swap the blooms around. So I'm kind of like coin flipping the first one in a sense on this boss. I'm keeping it on the 2 people who I think will need it, and then for myself I just go bear and bark, and then I'll swap the life bloom to myself after I like take the hit. But at least I have it like on these 2 to kind of start.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then yeah, that's essentially kind of like how I deal with like just thinking of single target for healing this fight. So you'll see the next ones are on me. DK, I just bark, stand still, and this does actually a crazy amount of damage too. Like, I mean, I was barked for that, and it's taking me down to like 20% HP. And you'll see, like, there's sets where like I don't have bark on myself, and I'll just either iron bark myself, or maybe I'll ask for sack, or I'll just bear form it and then renewal or health pots, because even with bear and no bark, like you're still kind of taking a lot of damage. The way I do AoE healing. Now, you'll see a lot of druids do stuff somewhat different with this. They'll either life bloom themselves and then life bloom another person who they think is squishy, like shaman, and then just hot DK and mage with like rejuves. But I typically like to go the route of just keeping rejuve, maybe another rejuve, and then rejuve on DK, regrowth like on us both, and then I give these to basically everything, because the healing from doing this strategy kind of evolves around your verdancy healing you as the druid. In most instances, it's always going to prior you in a sense, and then I typically just kind of like live on my own through that, and the DK also takes a lot of the verdancy healing too. Whereas if you swap it around, the verdancy healing kind of gets cut in half because you only have one life bloom on one target and you have one on yourself. While you do gain the increased like tick rate of your hots, I personally find that like me and the DK are the tankiest in this scenario. I mean, mage is also very tanky, but I would rather give big healing from, you know, life bloom onto the two people who I feel are going to be in danger. So that's kind of like how I would do this from comp to comp. So if I were to play with any 3 DPS, I would just kind of like think, okay, who is my one target that is going to be the sturdiest along with myself, and then I would put life blooms on the other. So if that's, you know, DK, mage, warrior, feral druid, rogue. I mean, rogue is also another good option to just kind of like not put life bloom on and have them kind of live on their own because they're fairly tanky. But yeah, my setup for this, like I said, is just to do that every time, and then I just rotate. So this one was Convoke with AMZ. I'm kind of like stacking some things in a sense. So yeah, it's just like Convoke every other would be your main rotation for this, and then you can pair in, you know, Trank and Trinket and Raid CDs that you have, like Mass Barriers and AMZs of your groups would rotate on the sets where you don't have Convoke. Not that Convoke is like a save all to everything. I mean, it's your only cooldown as a druid. It's probably one of your strongest, to be honest. I mean, Trank is also very strong now, but I'm pretty sure on all these AoEs that happened on this 19, I just like held Trank for like emergency, just because I was unsure like what my healing throughput would be like, or if I kind of needed to slam it on a situational basis. What I'm trying to do for a lot of these bosses now is, based on the comp that I have, is I'm trying to pair the 1 minute stuff together. So if I'm ever convoking, I'm going to Iron Bark Mage, because I've basically told Yoda, since I'm like in a planned organized group at this point, like if I ever say sack, like it's typically he's sacking Bond at this point, unless it's like some single target mechanic that is strictly on one person and it kind of like rotates. But for the most part, sack goes on Bond for a lot of stuff. You'll see on like this first set, I want to say, the bed is just like bark on mage, sack on, yep, there it is. And then this is my 1 minute set here. So I got all the hots, big hot setup on mage and shaman, life bloom rejuve, you know, rejuve regrowth on DK, and then this will be convoke, plus I'll just iron bark myself. There goes the sack on the shaman, there goes my my iron bark is on the mage, and then I'll just bark skin here. And then here's the convoke for this. And then I'm just kind of slamming out regrowth as I see fit here. So that's like the first cycle that I do. So I basically make that like my staple, right? So that cycle that I just did, you can do that on every other, like this boss is a 1 minute rotation of stuff. So as a druid, you just plan your tranks and your trinkets and your raid CDs on the other sets where, you know, you don't have convoke plus the 1 minute stuff. So and what I see like a lot of healers do on this boss too, that always like confuses me. So I think like the reason I got these hots were probably from convoke, but like whenever I see healers do this fight, for some reason they're like scared of themselves dying. Like you can see me like I'm just like never looking at my own HP, even during the AoE. Like I'm willing to bet like you have so many things to get through the AoE on your own, like renewal, health pot. Like you don't ever need to like look at your own HP ever on this fight. So like that whole AoE there, that was just trinkets only that I used. Plus, I think we AMZ'd there too. For the most part, like I said, this is just going to be the staple life blooms on the people, F load down. Here comes another 1 minute set. So I think for this one, I told Sec on mage and then had my shaman wall because, you know, I wanted him to get it on cooldown.
So talk to me about the convoke timing as well. Do you care about timing it before the damage happens, as the damage is happening?
I kind of do it almost in like preparation of it, I would say. Like here, the next one's coming up here. Let's see. I want to say I probably just, as soon as this ability comes off cooldown, like it's actually going to line up during it. So yeah, I just kind of slam it. It's lining up during the awaken. So yeah, I would say this would be the best time to do it because you can move around and dodge the waves while, you know, pressing convoke. So like you could see too, like I could have done like I did almost like 7 mil on this fight. I'm also doing like a mil DPS to the boss too. Like I'm keeping like rake and rip up, thrash. Well, thrash is like not something to prio fully on single target, but at least rake and rip, like I'm trying to keep up during times where I can. And typically that's like right after this, right? So like after the Awaken Swamp ability is called, that's like the storm is over, right? So you have like, you see me run in here, like boom, I'm getting my globals in. You have time as a healer to apply your rake and rip to this boss, and then you can move and just literally heal for the rest of the fight and still do like pretty decent damage while healing the group up.
Can we talk about how you want to do damage right here? And like how you walk into a pull, start doing damage, and then transition into healing?
Yeah, so this pull, I would say, is like an annoying one to kind of look at because there's the spells, the tank is also getting, it's like, so like the tank, you can never just, like this pull as a healer, you just can never dispel like the tank ever, so you have to keep him like fully hotted up because this dot eventually just destroys him. But this pull here kind of sucks because there's two guys that are like leaping out and frontaling you at different directions. So my main thing that I try to do coming into any pull is going to be rake and rip like a target once and then thrash. It'll be like 5 combo points on like one target. And then if I'm like really feeling sweaty and I have, you know, I have the globals, the capacity, I'll like try to multi-rake and even multi-rip to a certain extent, because rake and rip are what give you your vines as a druid, and your vines is your top damage now. It's always going to be your highest damage at the end of a key, and by getting vines out, you need to rake and rip. So yeah, the best way that I try to do this is I just find windows where I feel comfortable. So this is another hard pull too, where there's like circles on the ground, I'm healing, there's frontals everywhere. Like you can see I'm not like spending a whole lot of time in cat form, but I'm like trying to, like while I'm healing the group, I'm thinking of opportune times for me to go in, like right here. Like I'm just thinking of like opportune times to try to get a rake and a rip on a target. I would say that's like the bare minimum that you should try to do as a druid. Thrash up on like a lot of mobs, thrash does a lot of damage, and then rake and rip one mob. Like if you're learning druid, that's like the staple of like what you should try to do going into any pool, is just rake and rip a mob and thrash, and then that's it. That's like a pretty simple thing that to try to do. It can be scary to get in cat form at some times, but you just kind of have to trust HOTS and set up like stuff in advance. So always try to look for windows where you can. You don't need to be in cat form all the time to do damage. Just keep rake and rip up and then thrash, and that's it.
So how do you use your Grove Guardians?
I just kind of slam them on CD, to be honest. They're not like so much of your healing like it was back in Dragonflight Season 3, where you had to like actually pay a lot of attention to them and have them out at the right times because it did so much of your healing to begin with. I would say now they're more or less like just press them whenever you feel like it. I typically don't slam all 3 of them out at once unless it's like massive healing that's required and I don't have anything like, you know, Convoke or Trank up or Trinkets, I'll slam them all out, but I just kind of press them as I see fit. They're not like the make it, break it type healing anymore. They're just there. They're usually like 3-4% of your healing, I would say, at the end of a key. I don't think they're like that insane now.
Can you talk to me about what are some of the like most common mistakes that you see Druid players make, or the things that they like worry about but don't need to worry about as much?
That's a good question. I would say a lot of people, like whenever I do stream, a lot of people come in and ask why I'm playing like Abundance and Germination and not Cenarian Ward. I would say like your talents on the right of your tree don't actually like matter like that much. Like obviously you need to have the fundamentals down, but like your talents are not going to be like massive increases that are going to change your gameplay as a druid, because ultimately the tier set, in my opinion, is what is making druid extremely broken right now. Like the tier set is kind of crazy for Resto Druid. Like Symbiotic Blooms and Bursting Growth is doing number 1 and 2 of your healing, followed by regrowth. Like it's those 3 abilities are going to be like flip-flop depending on what key you're doing. So that's the tier set doing that, right? Like, I mean, that's the hero tree working together with your tier set to make that done. Your rejuve and wow growth are going to be very minimal healing for you. They're essentially there to just like kind of like buffer your healing almost in a sense, because healing without them, you can definitely notice, like if you're doing like a really hard boss and you don't have like some rejuves out on people, like I feel like you can notice it as a healer. Like you're going to want to apply some rejuves out on people, and that's typically where I do rejuve the most, is usually on bosses. So essentially where I'm going with this is don't get like too caught up on the talents. The hero tree plus the tier set is what's making your healing extremely strong, and a lot of that is done just passively by setting up like your hots and setting up like how you want to heal as a druid. So, you know, Symbiotic Blooms is fairly simple to think about. You have F-flow down, it can proc. You have regrowth on somebody, it can proc. You have wild growth on somebody, it can proc. So those are like fundamental rotational abilities that you should be pressing during AoE or single target. I mean, they're going to be up based on whatever, you know, you're kind of fighting at the time, and those just come naturally from doing your own rotation.
One last thing. Talk to me about how your tier set heals. Just like if you had to explain it to somebody who's just learning Druid.
Yeah, so the tier set, a lot of it comes from Clearcasting. So actually, that's a good thing to bring up. If you're looking at my stream, so I'm very sound like oriented, so like, and like somewhat visual. So the green bar that I have like here, like this line.
Yep.
Like anytime I have a Clearcast proc, this bar will appear here, and then there'll be another one if it stacks to 2. And then I have like a cat meowing noise on my Clearcast too. So anytime I get like a Clearcast, you know, I hear the meow, I know that, you know, I have one. What I typically like to do is I like to like keep life blooms out like almost all the time. Like you'll see we are started on this pool. I already have my 2 life blooms out on 2 people who I think are going to take a lot of damage here, and I already have 2 Clearcasts banked up. So what you'll see me do on this pool is like I'll refresh my life blooms like very frequently, so I always have Clearcasts up. Because what the tier set does is when you're in a Clearcast proc, you can proc Symbiotic Blooms on that person and 2 nearby allies as well. So you definitely want to pay attention to your Clearcast procs. There's also a talent that it interacts with too, at the bottom, called, I think it's Force Flow is what it is. It's the one where when you're in a Clearcast and you regrowth, it applies like a nourish, like a 200% amplified nourish onto an injured ally as well. So Clearcasting is definitely an important thing to, like, you have to have this like somewhere in your UI where you can see and track it accordingly, because not using your Clearcast procs on moments where you need like big healing will definitely punish you, because those are a large portion of your Symbiotic Blooms.
Awesome. That's perfect, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Any I can definitely link your Twitch and everything. Anything else, like social-wise, you want me to link?
I would say, like, if somebody wanted to reach out to me, like, they could reach out to me through Discord and ask me a question. I don't really have, like, a Discord or anything. I don't know. I always get stressed out with streaming, so I typically don't do it. If you want to link my stream, you can, but they probably won't find me there, like, streaming that often.
All right, sweet. Thank you so much. This is, like, insanely valuable. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. If you have any other questions, just message me. Hopefully I did a good job explaining some things. Take it easy. Take care.
You too.
Bye.
Later.